of Scientology. But they never specify what's bad. They haven't specified. For instance, right now they say we're breaking up marriages. What, that's a lie. How many times have I been married? I've been married twice. My first wife is dead.
What happened to your second wife?
I never had a second wife. Now, to answer that question would be very unfair.
You guys know that the government was infiltrated in the 1970s by a cult? Well, we're gonna be talking about it today, so if you don't know, you're gonna know now. So, welcome back. I am Britt, and this is Truific Pod. Now today I have a exciting topic, and it's pretty crazy. It's wild. I had never heard of this until here lately. And so we are going to be covering an operation called Snow White. And this operation was completely made by the creator and founder of Scientology, L Ron Hubbard himself. Now, follow me here. It's 1967, and the IRS has pissed off, in my opinion, the world's biggest cult. And that would be the Church of Scientology. Now, the way that they pissed all the Scientologists off is, back in the day, they were trying to get tax-exempt status, because as a church, one of the biggest things that can legitimize you as a religion is the government exempting your taxes. Now, the government looked into their practices and stuff, and they were like, well, you know, these funds aren't adding up. A lot of them are going directly into the creator of the religion's pocket, the preacher's pocket. So, that's obviously a no-no. You don't start a whole religion if you don't use that religion to better the world. So, L Ron Hubbard was a sci-fi writer, and he was a huge sci-fi writer in the 1950s, but he went completely batshit with power. Like, I'm talking, this dude was off his rocker completely. So, he had no prior interest in religion whatsoever. And all of Scientology, guys, let me explain this to you. You get into Scientology, and you run up every tier that there is in order to go up the ladder to reach higher branches. And the higher on the branches you are, the more you get in this afterlife type of deal that he made, I guess, a whole religion based on. So, he had no prior interest in religion. As a matter of fact, he was saying that one of the greatest things a person can do to basically make money is create a religion. Start a religion. And that is exactly what L Ron Hubbard did. Now, all the payments from everybody that was a part of Scientology at this point were going directly into L Ron Hubbard's pocket, and whoever else was at the top branch with him. Now, there was never proof of any contribution of any sort either from Scientology. So they obviously were like, no, we're not going to tax exempt you until we can figure out what's going on with y'all's funds. Alright? So they don't want that. They don't like people looking into them. They don't like people talking about them. They don't like any kind of negativity that has to do with L Ron Hubbard or Scientology in itself, or anybody that comes from Scientology. They are huge on the control of their image. Huge. And I will show you an example of that right now.
You've probably heard of Scientology.
Why is it a religion? What's it here? What's it do?
Well, whatever you have heard, if you haven't heard it from us, I can assure you, we are not what you expect.
From Michael Miscavige, and he is the founder of Scientology now, obviously because L Ron Hubbard passed away, but it's still the same. It's still the same religion, same cult-like basis. There are still people escaping it, and I'm sorry, but in order to escape something, you have to be trapped. Guys, let's get into L Ron Hubbard for a minute, because in order to understand how fully crazed this religion is and just how wild it all can be, it'll speak for itself once I describe him to you. So, L Ron Hubbard most definitely had only child syndrome to the fullest. He came from a pretty decent family. He actually had a mother that worked for the state county clerk office, and then his father was a U.S. naval officer. So him and his mom traveled basically wherever his dad was placed. So he got to visit a lot of places. Now the man was not good by any means academically. He had a pretty hard time in high school and college with grades. But he was good creativity-wise. Like, he had an imagination.
Imagination. With imagination, I can be anything.
And you'll know this by what Scientology is based on. Now, he was always writing for his school papers, and he was super creative in this way. And in 1933, he met his wife, Margaret Polly Grubb. And they went on to have 2 kids, and they lived in Laytonsville, Maryland at the time. And at this point in L Ron's life, he was a writer. He wanted to be a writer. It's what he was good at. He was creative in this way. So it really worked out for him. So he was basically living off of funds from writing. Now, from 1934 to 1940, L Ron then began writing tons of short stories, novels, different things, and he was now a New York Times hit. In 1941, L Ron then would follow his father's footsteps and get a military career. He gets into this naval base, right? And this is where you begin to see him get completely unhinged. So, this is basically, guys, he created his own naval branch. There is a naval branch that is affiliated strictly for Scientologists. And this is why he came up with his own little stupid military organization. So, during his time in the Navy, he had sent an entire naval fleet out of their way target location. Like, his fleet leader basically deemed him incompetent. Like, he was like, how the fuck do you get the coordinates off that far? Because it was like, I'm talking miles and miles and miles and miles, like hundreds of miles off from the target. So he was like, yeah, you're not competent enough for this. Not to mention, he also most definitely showed some really bad temperamental issues working alongside people. So they basically they were like, nah, you can't do this. So they deemed him incompetent to lead and navigate the fleet of naval ships. And so he then was sent into submarines instead. Now, one day he was sent into submarines, and this dude, holy shit, he goes into, do basic submarine duty, right? And he picks up on something. And instead of, investigating beforehand, he immediately went into battle with submarines. And so, within 5 hours, he thinks he detects an enemy sub, potentially, and goes into, fight mode. Immediately. And he ended up firing at Mexico land and was sent out after that because there was nothing going on. He was shooting at thin air and into other territory, which he shouldn't have been firing at. That can be a big no-no because people could have potentially thought, oh, well, they're trying to attack us, so let's go for it, balls in. So, after Hubbard gets kicked out, he goes to California. Alright, he's ready. He's ready to go live his life up. Keep in mind this little douche canoe has a wife and 2 kids. Okay? He's married. And he just dips off to Cali. Keep in mind this little douche canoe has a wife and 2 kids. Okay? He's married. And he just dips off to Cali. So Hubbard goes to Cali. He hits up his friend who's hella loaded. And he's like, hey bro, can I crash with you for a bit? So he stays at his friend's mansion and began to screw his 21-year-old girlfriend in a ritualistic attempt to summon Babylon, which is a supreme goddess somehow linked to Crowley, which is a demon. So they were fucking and doing sex rituals in California, all 3 of them together, just having a good old time. And his friend's name was Parsons. Well, his last name was Parsons. So they got their whole love circle going on. L Ron basically blocks out the fact that he has a family and responsibilities. And the 3 of them actually ended up saving up a bit of money, and they were going to get ships and take them all around the world to sell them. They were selling yachts. So they were selling yachts to sell yachts around the world. And so Parsons, the homie that was, letting L Ron hit, he fucking fucked them both. He tried to fuck them both over pretty hard. So L Ron and his girlfriend, who was dude's girlfriend as well, they all gave L Ron a place to stay and access and all that. He ended up trying to fuck him over, screwing him up, and he ended up screwing himself over. L Ron and Parsons' girlfriend, Sarah, they ended up, weirdly enough, getting married. Now, even though he was still legally married to his first wife, he went right on ahead and married the magical Poussoir lady, I guess. and completely moved on with his life. So, him and his girlfriend are married and they're fucking living their la la land. And Hubbard goes on to create an ideology called Dianetics, which basically was like a set of ideas and practices that were meant to heal your mind, your body, and your soul. So, yeah, any negatives, he basically claimed Dianetics could heal. And that's obviously not true. But tons of people, when they're at their lows, will pick up anything. They'll pick up anything to make them feel like they are worth something. And sadly, that's kind of what Scientologists are. It's just a bunch of people trying to find a sense of worth and power that they don't have in their everyday life. And they're looking to Dianetics to fix that. So, he then took these practices and made Scientology out of them. This is what made the government start looking hardcore into L Ron. Now, because he used every ounce of power to abuse others endlessly, he had no issue abusing power to get what he needed in order to keep his religion a religion. This is just something he did. If L Ron wanted something in life, he got it. One way or another. And if anybody spoke out against it, they were about to get fucked. He would infiltrate your entire life and get anybody in Scientology to join. Some of the negatives of being under L Ron, okay? He would regularly beat his followers. Beat the hell out of them. And here is actually a clip I'm going to play for you guys that really shows the true gruesomeness behind this religion and the practices and the gross power that the higher ranking people use to control the weaker minded below them.
2005, it gets really south. Like, they come out swinging. I was in marketing, which used to be the most upbeat, fun place to work. The commanding officer had come in with like 20 guys from the cinematography division and literally beat the living crap out of one of our staff members.
So you're all sitting there working, and then out of nowhere comes a bunch of executives, and they go, "This is our target," and they just beat the shit out of the guy.
Yeah, and she just was like, him, and he's the problem, and this is why there was a magazine or something that didn't get printed and out in time, and then when it went out, it had errors in it, and so he was like mud. And they literally all pounced on him. So you're like going, okay, gotta like check my P's and Q's, make sure I'm like on board and I'm following command intention and I'm gonna do exactly what he wants and I know what to say and I know how to say it and I know when to say it. Because you're witnessing this abuse. But you don't even think about it really as abuse. You think, he did something wrong, he deserved that, he got it, he better change.
Right.
Only were the consequences of even infuriating L Ron in the smallest degree were huge, but he also would audit people. And what this was a way for them to basically get you to come forward with any information that you were withholding from them. Period. Any kind of information. So, I'll show you an example.
What's an e-meter? So an e-meter is a device that just measures the resistance to a small electrical flow. Except Scientologists believe that this e-meter can be used to simply direct the progress of an auditing session, to determine whether the auditing has reached a good, satisfactory conclusion. All auditing sessions have to end on a satisfactory conclusion. Like, that's the job of the auditor. It's not like, sorry, the session sucked, see you next week. It's not like that. Every auditing session has to end on a positive note. And if it doesn't, there's corrections to be made. So the e-meter.
What does it look like visually? Like,
oh, you can pull it up. Pull up Mark 8, e-meter Mark 8.
So there's a few dials.
Yeah.
There's basic information about time and duration, I presume, and then a dial that just goes 0 to something.
Okay, so let's say that the meter's in front of me and you're the one holding the cans.
I'm holding the cans, so you're doing the auditing of me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm holding the cans.
No, literally in the beginning of an auditing session, when you're calibrating the sensitivity of the e-meter, you do a can squeeze. So I go, squeeze the cans, please.
Okay. So I'm just like squeezing the cans.
And I'm just changing the sensitivity, because when you squeeze the cans, I want to get about a 1/3 of a dial drop on the needle. The idea is you don't want, if the needle's too sensitive, then every time you shift around in your chair, the needle's going to bounce all over the place. So you're trying to set the sensitivity of this thing. And that's all. The knob there on the bottom to the left, that's the sensitivity knob. And that determines just how sensitive the needle's going to be. And the bigger dial is called the tone arm, and that is changing, I want to say voltage or current, but I'm not intending, I'm going to get one of those words is wrong, right?
But it is a real device.
It's a real device
that you can actually calibrate to probably, get an outcome that you want.
Yeah. So here's even how a Scientology auditor believes it works. You're holding the cans. There's a tiny little battery in that e-meter that's you're completing the circuit when you pick up the cans, right? So you got a little thing going there, and that needle will respond to your physical movement, but that's not what we want. We want you to sit the hell still so that we can read this thing when I'm asking you questions. Okay.
So you're sitting there still, very still.
As still as you can, comfortable, right? And I'm going to go, is there something you're withholding from me? And what I'm looking for is, right when I say at the end of me, I'm looking for the needle to dip to the right.
Having a needle, even if it's kind of random, can really be like a catalyst for a conversation.
That's what it's used for, except it's an enforced conversation. So I'll give you a really good example of this. So you're holding the cans. Say, is there anything you're withholding from me? And I get an instant read. And I go, is there anything you're withholding from me? You're going to go, I don't think so.
And I don't see the needle.
No, you don't see the needle.
Okay.
I go, well, what did you think of when I asked you the question? Now, if you've already had a lot of auditing, you know how this goes. It means I got an instant read, and we're not going to move on until this question gets resolved. Okay, so you're going to go, I don't know what I was thinking of. And then I'll be like, take a look, and I'll help you out here. I'll try to steer you. Okay, so I'm looking to get roughly the same read while you're thinking about whatever. I'm going, what was that? What was that right there?
And you can start digging to what? You can start...
I just want an answer to the question. Okay.
And I can go to memory.
Yeah. And you can give me any answer you want. There's no way for me to know if you're giving me the right answer, but I want you to give me something.
Yeah.
Now, auditing is really, really important to Scientology because that is how they get into your mind. That is how L Ron was able to find people's weaknesses and how he was able to control you and blackmail you if you were to ever try to speak against his religion and organization or himself, period. He would fuck you up, dude. This on children is even more interesting because in Scientology, and we can look at Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise for this one, because I'm pretty sure that's probably a huge reason that they divorced, but they are supposed to see children as full-bodied adult beings that are just in smaller vessels. What the fuck do you mean? You know how dangerous that type of thinking is? And that is why there are sexual assault and rape allegations against the community. They do whatever the fuck they want. And that's exactly how L Ron made it.
Users, what kind of questions were they asking you when you were a child? When I was a child, I had some auditing and lots of different things were covered. The thing that I feel was inappropriate to me as a child was that things of a sexual nature came up and I was questioned about this. And I found that very uncomfortable as a child.
At what kind of age were they asking you questions about this?
I was probably around between the age of 8 and 10. I can't remember exactly, but young, really young. And the person auditing me was a man of, middle-aged man, of 35 to 40.
And how do you feel about that now?
Now, reflecting on it, I feel like it borders on sexual abuse. That's my feeling about it,
And the Church of Scientology keeps all this information, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Another portion that's going to get you guys, okay? So, L Ron put in these people's heads that children were also ancient and immortal thetans or spirits who are capable of carrying out basically these same responsibilities as adults, and their bodies are just housing them. You gotta be shitting me. You gotta be shitting me if you're telling me that fucking Tom Cruise and John Travolta believe this shit. The main event, alright? So, the DEA catches word that Scientology is claiming their e-meter, alright? And go over an e-meter with you guys later, but they really, really wanted to investigate this because L Ron and Scientologists were claiming that this had the power to heal all ailments, and they wanted to see what it was about because it was being pushed to the public as a cure, basically for all. And as you guys know, that's fucking false advertisement and extremely dangerous. And so the DEA busts into one of the Scientology centers and took all these e-meters from them, right? This was in 1963. So, they have this new battle against the U.S. government in the 1960s, which started a huge fire of paranoia, even more so in L Ron. And this dude is already a paranoid motherfucker. He's on some juju ritualistic space bibble babble bullshit. And, he's gonna keep it going. So he's gotta fight, even if it means the government. Now, after this raid in 1963, the IRS began digging around into Scientology's funds and realized it went directly, for the most part, into L Ron Hubbard's pocket. Now, with this knowledge, they stopped exempting Scientology's taxes, and this hit L Ron hella hard.